What's up, lifers? Michael Johnson here with the Magic for Life podcast, and we're here with part 2 of the Mazen Hamza interview. So we'll cue the theme song and then jump right back into the interview. Hi, my name is Michael Johnson. I'm a ballroom dance professional, a life coach, and a peak performance expert. I'm part of a group of motivated people who are dedicated to attaining emotional mastery and unlocking our full potential. We've realized life is a dance. The ups and downs can spin you out of your mind, but it's time to take back control. It's time to become a lifer. We don't believe others are responsible for how we feel. In fact, we don't believe anyone can make us feel anything. We are a new breed of overachievers. Emotional mastery is our journey, and unlocking our full potential is the key. Welcome to the journey. We are lifers, and this is Magic for Life. You know, so many times I hear over and over again, and you and I have both been through it, that it was the politics. It was the politics that made this happen or that happen. And while I think there's a certain element of that that's true, but I think it's true in any industry. I think it's true in any profession. There's always some type of politics. It's how we operate. And, how can we, if we had the perfect scenario in ballroom, how could we change that? How could the ballroom world move away from that to the point that it didn't have as much impact on the overall outcome? Or is it just not possible?
That's a challenging question, because a lot of what we refer to as politics is being human.
Okay.
I'm going to say it's a human condition.
Sure.
You know somebody. I know you now very well.
Right.
And we've known each other a long time. So let's say I'm judging you.
Sure.
You're going to walk on the floor with your student or with your partner.
Right.
Against somebody I don't know.
Okay.
Let's say you're roughly equal.
Okay.
What am I going to do? Do I really like Michael. He's a good guy. Pretty close. You're in a real dilemma at that moment.
Sure.
If you're being honest with yourself,
yeah.
Because you got two couples relatively equal.
Right.
Okay. So let's say, his shoulders are going up there. I just can't give it to him this time. Right. Or you go, his shoulders are going up, but I really like Michael. So I'm going to give it to him this time because
right.
There's that human element. And is that a conscious choice you even make in that moment?
Right.
I'm verbalizing something that may not even be on the conscious radar. So much of what we do and think happens unconsciously.
Sure.
And there's a strong unconscious bias to what we know and what we like.
Right.
So if you've met somebody and you like them, that makes it harder.
Right.
No matter what. So what a lot of times people refer to as politicking, sometimes is just being human.
Right.
I mean, it's very challenging to go, I don't really like them. I'm going to mark them anyway.
Right. Right.
It's really hard because you say we're being objective, but it's not. It's completely subjective.
Sure.
Everybody gets hired in for their opinion and what do they like to see.
Right.
So to a large degree, that's what is referred to as politics.
Right.
Now, that's the impression, and a lot of times people use it as an excuse.
Sure.
So it's political.
Sure.
Yeah, look, if you are not in the top 3 in the country, it ain't political.
Right.
It isn't. Maybe 1, 2 rising star, occasionally.
Yeah.
And very rarely occasionally.
Yeah.
But for the most part, I think it just goes into the top 1, 2, 3 in the country, mostly.
Right.
If it's going to happen.
Right.
And I don't think it happens all the time, but maybe that's my naivete. Now, to remove it from ballroom, I don't know that we have, because there's so many ideas that have been floated out there, right?
Right.
So you hire people to just judge.
Right.
Okay. Financially, how's that feasible?
Right.
Do you change the business model of the competition so they have to pay a lot more money? So one year you decide you're not going to coach and make that kind of money, and you're going to go and judge and make significantly less.
Sure.
So who are you going to get as a pool of judges that are willing to do that?
Right.
Right?
The whole business model would have to change.
Yeah, you're going to get more people who want to achieve something
right.
and see that as an avenue or an opportunity where they couldn't, so they're going to feel it feeds into a whole system
Sure.
of. I don't think that's a good idea from certain perspectives. Now, could it work? Maybe. I don't know.
It's hard to know. There's no proven model.
Right. It doesn't sound good to me, but that doesn't mean it wouldn't work.
Sure.
And it sounds like it's too much potential for abuse. So you're going to have a large percentage of people who choose to coach because they would rather make a decent living, and people who would rather have the recognition of judging.
Right.
And those are different, just two different.
No doubt.
Okay, so that's just one thing. So then you hire people who maybe never danced in their lives, like the ice skating model, which I think is a terrible idea.
Right.
From this perspective, if you've danced, let's say as you've increased your knowledge, you can see more.
Sure.
Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad. So the more you know, the worse you get.
Right.
To a degree.
Right.
Right? Because you know more that's happening or not happening.
Right.
And you don't always look at the overall picture.
I see.
Right? But at least in ice dancing, they have a criteria.
Okay.
Right? You have to have these elements, you have to have these elements, you have to have these elements. And you can look at them and say, this is happening like this is happening like this. So are we going to start doing that with dancing?
It's crazy.
I don't know. Look, somebody said this, somebody told me this, and I thought, hey, maybe that's true because it sounds true. It's a great sounding thing. Why do we have the format the way we do? 6 couples on the floor, process of elimination, because it's more social.
Oh, I see.
It's more fun.
Right.
Right? The energy in the room is way more fun.
Right.
If you've watched some of the amateur comps where you go 1 couple at a time, two head-to-head, it takes forever.
Yes.
And by the end of that, you're bored.
Right.
Even if they're great couples, it just doesn't have that same energy and excitement.
Yeah.
So you change the format. And I don't know, and so you change how you judge.
Right.
We could do a better skating system, eliminate top and bottom, make them anonymous.
Right.
Just randomly select scores, drop them out.
Right.
Penalize people for any infraction of talking. We could be stricter with that.
Right.
Appearances of impropriety.
Sure.
It's less pleasant, but look at
yeah.
We worry about impropriety in the business, but look at how much of it happens.
Yeah, sure.
You socialize as a judge with competitors at events,
right.
after parties,
right.
at the bar.
Right.
So, okay, let's say we ban that. Now you're going to go and take a coaching. I'm going to go travel in with somebody. We're going to go out to dinner and
yeah, sure.
Yeah. So now it's just now it's going to be
hidden more.
It's going to be more hidden.
Right.
So how do you stop that? I don't know.
Yeah.
But there is a great answer. So that's one aspect of it. Now the other aspect is when you have one. Let's say you have a couple, and you decide you want to push them. So you're going to go talk to your friends and say, "Hey, mark my couple."
Okay.
What's that about?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I mean, is that good or bad? Now you start pressuring other people that aren't your friends because, you can bully them a little bit and they're going to give in because some people are not as strong and they don't feel
sure.
like standing up.
Okay.
And I think that happens in not just in this industry, but in probably all industries.
Yeah.
It's really hard to be the one to stand up and say, hey, that's not right.
Yeah.
You shouldn't do that.
Yeah.
Because everybody's afraid of the consequences of standing up and saying that.
Of course. Yeah.
Even when things are patently not right. And
right.
there have been many grotesque abuses, and not just from me personally, but just looking around.
Right, sure.
And you say, but nobody gets called out. Nobody
yeah.
really suffers for it.
Right.
We all know it happens. It's out
right.
there in the open.
Right.
But
nothing's done.
Nothing's done.
Yeah.
So I think maybe a stricter policing of that would possibly crack down. But then there are,
right.
Here's the thing. Look at the way the industry's grown.
Yeah.
How much of that is happening?
Yeah.
Is it worth fixing that wrong? What
sure.
else? What are the unintended consequences?
Exactly.
I don't know.
It's prohibition, right? How did it affect America? And it was a good idea maybe in theory, but
it's a terrible idea in theory.
In
it was
actuality, it was horrible. Like
yeah.
it was a total mess.
It was an imposition of a moral certitude.
Right.
That I am morally right. You shouldn't drink. Okay, maybe you shouldn't drink because you don't want to, but you shouldn't tell somebody else not to.
Right.
But now I'm going to go way off, but that's been our policy on drugs too.
Right.
And look how that's changing.
Yeah.
It's an imposition of certain things, and you see that looking wrong.
Right.
It maybe sounded good, and even now, look at the generational. Everybody thinks, oh, that's bad. Now, we talk about, let's go back before it was banned, and cocaine was part of that was why it's Coca-Cola.
Right, sure.
It was part. So now we think about, oh yeah, that's a drug. We don't do that.
Right.
But you're gonna have your cup of coffee in the morning.
Right, sure.
Or any basic. You're gonna have your sweets.
Right.
Your sugar.
Yeah.
That acts like a strong drug on the body. That's
Yeah.
incredibly addictive.
Huge.
Right. You ever tried to quit sugar?
It's tough, right?
Oh man,
Everybody that I've heard go through it for like the keto diet and stuff like
Yeah.
that, they just say that the first
week is terrible.
yeah, it's horrible going
Yeah.
through trying to get rid of sugar.
Yeah, it's really tough. And once you start a little bit, back on.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
it's quick, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's rough. I don't know. I've often thought, and I've asked lots of people what the solution is, and nobody seems to have a great solution. And I wonder if it's the solution is that we have to evolve as a human race first, or if that's even possible. You know,
Possibly. I do think a stricter sense of like you don't get to go politicking with your friends in the judges' room or anywhere else.
Yeah, sure.
You know, you can't control what people do on their
Outside,
phones or
yeah.
outside of that. But at an event, that doesn't happen. It's not allowed. You can't. I mean, it does. Look, I've been judging and I've never seen it happen. But maybe it's just because nobody's going to come and talk to me. I don't know, because I know I've heard it's happened and they
Sure.
talk about things, but nobody's come up to me and said, "Hey, you need to mark this person," because
Yeah.
I don't know what I do in that situation.
Right.
Yeah, because I would think, oh no, I'm not. Right. Then the secondary thought, wait, I want to get hired again.
Right.
Okay. So I reveal that, but I'm talking, I think, what everybody's thinking,
Oh yeah, sure.
that you're going to have that going back and forth. Now, of
Yeah.
course, the right answer is, you're like, no, I'm not going to do that. Really? Put yourself in that situation. Now what are
Yeah.
you going to do? I don't know.
Yeah.
I'd like to think I would do the right thing.
Right. Right.
Yeah,
I'd like to believe and think that there are enough people out there that would, and so we just kind of hope and in people's best sides and hope that comes out. You know, like I guess that's it. You just got to hope that people will step up.
Willing to take the stand. Unfortunately, they're the ones that suffer,
Right. Sure.
and the people that are doing it wrong don't.
Right. Right. Yeah. That's the challenge, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Well, I keep saying it over and over again. I have a bunch of listeners that I know aren't dancers, business people, and athletes, and other people. And I think there's a lot to learn from ballroom, in particular, for the general public and for a lot of people that are out there. And I kind of feel like there's a lot for us ballroom people to teach other athletes and how we've grown and how we've learned to improve. So,
Well, it changes you.
yeah,
It really does change you.
yeah,
Just learning how to move your body in a different way. You can't separate the mind from the body. It's impossible.
right, sure,
It's interrelated. So integrating your mind-body to become a better dancer, I think, is essential.
sure,
To really become good, you have to have some of that. And that changes you.
yeah,
Because most of the time, we spend our lives ignoring.
yeah,
But then again, you also look at great dancers sometimes, and they're cripples off the floor, because you also ignore the body. So
Right.
it's a kind of, you get to know the body. Sometimes we get to force it to do things it really doesn't do naturally to try to create an effect.
mm-hmm.
So there's some things that are good and some things that are not, like with
Yeah.
anything else. Dedication towards a goal, like any athlete.
yeah.
Working towards it, exploring different ranges of motion, which is different than most athletes.
Okay, so for our dancers out there and other athletes and those people, what type of tips do you have for them in terms of practicing and getting better at their craft?
Study it. I mean, not to be facetious, but
Right.
learn about it. Learn what it is. What is it really about? And if you're using your body, learn about it. How does a body really work? You just look at basic anatomy, and that makes a huge difference.
Yeah.
There's a lot of information. You know, if you watch workout videos, there's a lot of information that's out there. Some of it's great, some of it's not. The same thing with dance information or anything else. Some of it's great, some of it's not. So how do you weed through what's going to help you get to where you're going to get to the fastest?
Yeah.
I mean, the resources that are available now are so much more. I mean, look, when you and I started, there was no YouTube.
Yeah.
There was no Instagram. You couldn't go
nothing.
and watch somebody's video clip and look at that. And that's a huge resource to be able to look at these people dancing. And you learn a lot from watching.
Sure.
But that's not the only way of learning.
Yeah.
And you have to be able to evaluate what you're doing and match it against what you want.
Right.
Being brutally honest with yourself, not being mean,
Right.
but being really honest. Like, that's not what I want it to look like.
Right.
That's not what I want it to be. Okay, good. Now, how do you get there? And that's where you seek out the information. And it may take longer than you think.
Right.
You want it to look like something, and you think it's going to be a fix of like a week or a lesson, and it ends up being a 2-year problem.
Yeah.
And that's just how it goes with it. And trust the process. Yeah, I think it's just time in, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
You have to be willing to dive in and really put the time in. Here's a big one, right?
Yeah.
If you think of it as a sacrifice, then it is, and it'll never work for you.
Right.
It's a choice.
Okay.
You got to choose all the time. What are you going to do?
Yeah.
And if it's a sacrifice, then it is.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, what you focus on, right?
Exactly.
Sure.
And if it's a sacrifice, you'll never get to where you want to get because you're sacrificing. You give up. You make choices.
Right.
I always made choices that my dancing came first.
Sure.
Had to.
Sure.
For me. But maybe other people it doesn't, and that's okay. And there's nothing wrong with that. If you want to achieve something differently, if you want to have a goal that says, I want to be a champion, I want to achieve this level of success, then you don't get to complain and say that I'm not getting it if you're not really putting everything in.
Right. Right.
And when I mean everything, it's all relative. There's always that, like we said, there's that should, would, could, so I should have done more. Okay, well, you do what you can, and then you see if you can do more next time.
Right. Right.
And you have to you're human. You're going to have days where you're done. You're wiped. Yeah. And finding that balance, I think is key also. Yes, you drive and you push hard, but you have to have a balance where you have recovery time. Yeah. Because that's actually where you sometimes get the most growth without trying. Yeah. Finding a great coach. Yeah. That's huge. I didn't really discover that till late. Yeah. And there are a lot of people who are good teachers. There are not a lot of great coaches. Or at least I didn't experience them. Right. I had the fortune with working a lot of great teachers. Sure. And I had also the fortune to work with one or two really great coaches. Right. And those that really make a difference. Absolutely. And you have to go around and find them. They don't just appear out of the woodwork. Yeah, that's true. Nobody's going to jump up and do the work for you. You have to do the work and find that. Right. And also kind of be honest with yourself what really works. Right. Certain people are not going to work for you. Right. And that's okay. And you're not going to maybe work best in their system. Not a big deal. They could be a great coach, and maybe they're just not right for you. Right. And it's not about them being wrong or you being right. It's just different. You know this from teaching. You work with students sometimes, and you know that, like, hey, this is what I do. This is what I do well, and I try to do these things, but I don't think it's a good fit. Right. And that's not a bad thing. Right. But sometimes with the egos involved in the industry, it becomes a very, very bad thing. Yeah. Where I think that's where you go, evolution of people. We could say, hey, pass it on. Yeah. He's a good kid. I'm not right for them, but maybe you would be. Right. Right. That's hard. It's hard for coaches to do. It's really hard. You had no joke. Yeah. I like to think that you know, and at any points in time that if somebody leaves me because I wasn't a good fit, that's okay.
Yeah.
And of course, there's an ego hit with that.
Oh,
I mean,
sure.
like, they were stupid. They left for these reasons. Okay, they left because I wasn't a good fit, and that's okay.
Right.
The things I do were right for them.
Right.
And okay,
Sure.
you're not going to be right for everybody.
Sure.
You know.
I teach a lot about emotional mastery, and those that maybe have listened to the podcast know that it's kind of a big deal from my perspective. And I feel like emotional mastery kind of touches everything we do. But what kind of experiences have you had with emotional mastery along your way, just being a dancer and also just in life having to learn to control emotions? I kind of feel like dancers have a one up on many people just because we spend a lot of time dealing with it. But what have you done?
Well, I remember one of the first introductions to even that thought. You familiar with EFTPS?
I'm not.
Emotional feedback tapping or something
Oh,
like
yes.
that? Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Tapping.
Yeah, sure.
When I got introduced to that, I thought it was kind of weird, but it seemed to be effective.
Right.
That was one of the first times I realized that, hey, maybe there was something else that I could do
Right.
to help me with performances
Yeah.
and deal with those emotions. And, you know, left that alone for a number of years, and then later in the career got introduced to other ideas. I thought one of the most powerful ones was checking in with myself
Yeah.
before a competition and just kind of saying, okay, am I okay?
Yeah.
And then just walking myself, say, well, I feel this. You know, I feel anxiety, I feel fearful, I feel,
Sure.
you know, and then really, really get down, not like super deep. The point of that before performance isn't to delve into, you know, I really feel that I was abandoned as a child, but, you know, that may be, and jokingly, but that may be the,
Right.
like a core issue that you're really resonating with. So I feel abandoned as a child, and therefore I feel that if I don't perform well, that nobody's going to love me, and that, you know,
Right.
so you realize that that's where the anxiety comes from.
Sure.
And then you start to have okay, yeah, I do feel that right now.
Yeah.
I feel anxious that if that happens, okay, so I feel that. All right. I have a feeling. I'm not a feeling.
Yeah.
That I would say. I have feelings.
Sure.
But if the feeling has you, yeah, now I'm not angry. I have anger. I feel angry,
Right.
but I am not.
Right.
Right? So I think that's a difference in how you talk about it. So you feel anxiety, I feel fearful in the moment before performance, but what am I going to do? Am I okay? Yeah.
Right.
I can still be okay and have these feelings.
Sure.
And that's something like you're talking about, emotional mastery. You don't investigate until you have to sometimes.
Right. Right.
Right? Unless it becomes a real issue.
Yeah.
And I don't know that some people do. So you get to make a choice in, you know, what are you doing with your dancing then?
Sure.
Because if you're just showing steps all the time and, you know, trying to show perfect technique, then who's the performer?
Right.
I wish I knew this verbatim, but I think it was a Baryshnikov quote where he says, it's always going to be something like, oh, my pirouette's not quite perfect, or I don't get my leg high enough.
Right.
And the great performance isn't about that perfect pirouette or that amazing extension. It's that the imperfection in it, in spite of the humanity of it.
Right.
What does somebody feel?
Right.
What do you feel in that moment? Is it real for you? Because if I'm just doing my steps as a program, and that's what's hard sometimes when you compete a lot.
Yeah.
But creating it real every single time, that's what makes it worthwhile.
Yeah.
Because if you can get there, look, I think all of us have that, you know, the book Flow.
Sure.
Right, that's what we chase.
Yeah.
That moment where everything comes together in pure perfection, and you have this transcendence
Right.
in what you're doing. And you have it happen, if you're lucky, once or twice in your career.
Yeah.
And you chase it the rest of your time.
Absolutely.
You look for that all the time because it's just so magical.
Right.
But yeah, you got to set it up so you can get there.
Yeah. Well, we sure appreciate you joining us today. It's been great fun talking with you, and I think for our audience, it's going to be really great to hear your experiences and your story and hear about you. I think so many people in the industry, there's just not enough information out about the trials and the tribulation that we go through. There's not enough about the successes that you've had. You only see the final or the end result, and
Sure.
you don't know what it took to get there. And I think this is probably a great start for some people to really get to know you. How can people that would love to contact you and maybe experience some of your teachings, how could they get in contact with you? What do you think is the best way for them to reach out to you?
Probably right now, Facebook Messenger.
Awesome.
Because if they don't have a way of getting in touch otherwise, that's probably the easiest at that point.
Awesome.
Or just, contact you.
Awesome. Well, we'll certainly direct them your way, and we sure appreciate you. Thanks for joining us on the podcast today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Absolutely.
Want more Magic for Life? If so, then reserve your copy of my new book. Get your copy at everyminutebook.com. Inside this book, you'll find the secrets to attaining the next level of performance in anything you do. Learn the secrets behind emotional mastery that'll start you on your new journey of being a lifer. Whether you're an athlete, a business professional, or an artist, this book will change your life forever. Get your copy reserved today.